GNX is Kendrick's drive for change. Let me back up a bit. We all know what Kendrick Lamar did last year in 2024, and to top it off, he dropped his 6th studio album named after his most prized possession, his one of 547 GNX. But before we dive into the album itself, why? Why did Kendrick choose to name the album after this specific car? His GNX is symbolic of being the GOAT. Not everyone can own such a scarce car the same way not everyone can be the greatest rapper in the game. There's only so many people who can claim they're the greatest in the same way that only so many people can obtain a GNX. Because the car, like his position in the game, is so scarce, in order to obtain it, you must achieve and practice a strong work ethic and determination in the face of adversity. GNX is a metaphorical ride through Kendrick's life, with him presenting his current outlook while also looking back and giving props to the things and people that made Kendrick who he is. Whacked Out Murals. Whacked Out Murals, the album's intro, establishes this setup with him literally telling us that he's
riding in my GNX with Anita Baker in the tape deck
at the very beginning of the album. He's getting us ready for the journey. But why are we going on this journey? After the healing of generational trauma and acceptance of past mistakes on Mr. Morale, Kendrick has established a life for himself that he's adamant on living. He begins the album with a warning.
It used to be fuck that nigga, but now it's plural. Fuck everybody.
A line in the sand is drawn, and this is the point of the album. We are going on this drive with Kendrick so he can show us what separates him from other artists in the industry, and also show his listeners how to avoid ending up like the latter. There are clear shots and callbacks to his Drake feud, especially in the third verse, but he calls out everybody he feels he needs to in this song, including those legends he once idolized, Snoop and Wayne. He does this to show that he's no longer below them, but rather has ascended onto their level, if not surpassing them. The song's final line reads,
"But it ain't no legends if my legend ends."
A change in the hip-hop hierarchy has occurred. If he leaves the game, then that's it. There's nobody else on his level. The song's chorus also sees Kendrick give us listeners rules of engagement on what it takes to get to this position, in the hopes that he can bring change to the current climate of hip-hop and birth more people with his ethic and values to change the game and make sure he's not the last legend, further establishing the album's motive, to bring change. The song also begins with an intro from Dayo Barrera. The translation is as follows. I feel your presence here last night and we start to cry. That reflect your gaze the night you and I. Whose presence? It's a very vague opening and is built upon as the album continues, kinda like the poem in To Pimp a Butterfly. Just remember this as we go on with the album because it's gonna come back up again. Squabble Up. Squabble Up continues the fuck everybody attitude K-Dot established on Whacked Out Murals. It sees Kendrick calling out everyone in the game. In order to get where he is, you gotta squabble up and fight for it. He knows there's posers and fake people who aren't really in the game for the real reasons.
It was wolf tickets on sale till I silenced it.
And he rightfully tells them to
Get the fuck out my face.
You want the position at the top? You gotta fight for it, and that's exactly what Kendrick did. Luther. Contrasting the previous two tracks, Luther takes a loving and tender approach to Kendrick letting out how he feels. The first person in Kendrick's life we see him reflect on is Whitney, with the entire song serving as an ode to her. It ties back into the
"You better off to having one woman, everything tricky right now"
line on Whacked Out Murals. He meant it. He isn't hopping from woman to woman and is securely tied down to Whitney. The mention of the
Roman numeral 7
symbolizes perfection, with Kendrick viewing Whitney and this newfound position at the top as perfect. And having the ability to get it popping on the weekends, now he has achieved this freedom. He shows us he's happy. Men at the Garden. Continuing this positive reflection, Kendrick speaks on the blessings he has accumulated in life and acknowledges he deserves them and why he does. It's very much a song about Kendrick's life and the people within it. Kendrick's first verse about him, with the second verse going through what it takes to get to this position of self-worth and acknowledgement. However, the third verse is about his family. Kendrick wants those closest to him to relish in the same self-love that he has for himself, asking God to
keep all my blessings faithfully, keep my essence contagious, that's okay with me.
He substitutes the pronoun I for she, he, and the inclusive we, showing Kendrick's pride and faith in his family.
Yeah, she deserves it all. Yeah, we deserve it all. Yeah, he deserves it all.
He also mentions how God believes that he deserves it all.
A close relationship with God whispered to me every time I close my eyes. He said, you deserve it all.
This final verse then transitions into a more abrasive and aggressive Kendrick.
Crashing out right now.
Those going against him and hating on him talk on something they're not involved in, which is exactly why Kendrick deserves to be considered the GOAT. He got to his position with integrity, and unlike those trying to bring him down, literally breathes hip-hop. These factors are what earns him the title of being the GOAT. Hey now, because of all Kendrick has achieved, he refuses to be disrespected anymore, continuing the same sentiment at the end of Man at the Garden. There is no longer a quest for validation or to prove himself, Right now, he's thinking about his financials rather than becoming the GOAT.
I'm all up on my yin. Big face Buddha, get my peace from within.
He knows he's the GOAT and tells people if they want to test his position,
They can take it up with Jordan.
aka the GOAT. This self-love and appreciation, continued from men at the garden, sees a lack of toleration for disrespect towards him.
Stop.
He knows the higher powers that be, the aliens, want to see him continue winning.
They wanna see me do my dance. I let them watch me do my dance.
The higher powers can also represent God, showing that Kendrick believes his actions grant him a good view in the eyes of God. He's
The Black Noah, I just strangled me a goat.
This allusion both references his assassination of Drake lyrically, and also how Noah from the Bible would strangle goats and other animals as sacrifices to God as a good gesture to get to his destination, suggesting that Kendrick did the same thing, lyrically killing Drake in battle as a sacrifice for God. Reincarnated. A narrative shift occurs here. The prior 5 songs were about Kendrick and his life, but this song is where everything changes. More on this soon. After hearing about Kendrick's current position in life, his outlook, values, and the people he loves most, we hear about the past lives Kendrick has experienced. These include the lifetimes of 2 past musicians. Whilst Kendrick does not outright come out and say who these people are, the first is thought to be the life of John Lee Hooker, a legendary R&B guitarist from Michigan whose breakout single released in 1948. This individual is said to have been flooded with gluttony and had a lust for money. The second life he embodies is that of Billie Holiday, a Chitlin Circuit vocalist who lived a life filled with greed and an addiction to sex and drugs. Remember these things. There is then a large time jump to the third life, Kendrick's life. The lines
My father kicked me out the house, I finally forgive him. I'm old enough to understand the way I was living. Ego and pride had me looking at him with resentment.
show growth in Kendrick in this current life, with him calling out to his father for forgiveness and to validate these newfound realizations as the verse continues. He understands the reason he was kicked out of the house by his father, a clever misdirect as fathers of the people in prior lives were mentioned but in negative light.
My father kicked me out the house cause I wouldn't listen to him. I didn't care about his influence, only loved what I was doing. My daddy looked the other way, he saw sin in me.
Making us think that he is talking about his biological father and that he has grown spiritually to a point he is able to forgive his father in this current life. The twist happens here when God comes in, answering Kendrick's call out. It becomes apparent here that Lucifer is the person who embodied these past figures. Now he is within Kendrick, and the father he is speaking to is God in this verse. Lucifer was also considered the angel of music prior to his fall, hence as to why God says he
My greatest music director was you.
and why he would solely embody musicians. The amalgamation of all past lives have been filled with the 7 deadly sins: pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, and wrath. And the 7th sin, sloth, is alluded to in how long it took for Lucifer to realize why he was cast out of heaven. He was too lazy, being wrapped up in his manipulation of man through music, to see why he was kicked out of heaven and fix his mistakes. The lives of musicians have been plagued by sin as a result, making music and the devil synonymous with each other. God acknowledges the good that Lucifer has done in this current life through Kendrick.
I kept 100 institutions paid. Okay, tell me more. I put 100 hoods on one stage. Okay, tell me more. I'm trying to push peace in LA.
But points out flaws in how he is living. In order to be forgiven and achieve his mission, to truly bring about change, Kendrick/Lucifer must kill his pride, the last of the sins not yet killed in this lifetime, and open his heart.
You do well, but your heart is closed.
Although he's trying to push peace in LA, he
love
loves
war.
and has pride in himself. God points out this contradiction made by Kendrick, as Kendrick is not practicing what he preaches. The realization is made when he says that
Every individual is only a version of you. How can they forgive when there's no forgiveness in your heart?
the allusion to Isaiah 14 is also purposeful, as it contains the story of Babylon and Lucifer's fall from heaven, which is significant as it symbolizes both the story of Lucifer as well as Kendrick's fall from the pedestal of a savior, tying back into Mr. Morale and also the realization that he's not practicing what he preaches. How can he preach and advocate for peace if the reason he got to where he is now was because of the hatred he had towards Drake and the actions he took during their battle? God explains why he kicked Lucifer out of heaven, saying it was for
Rehabilitation, not psychosis.
as a result of his distaste for authority. This insight gives a Lucifer-embodied Kendrick an understanding as to why he was sent to Earth. Lucifer continued to live life on his own accords, manipulating man with music across different lifetimes. God then acknowledges the growth and newfound understanding Kendrick has over his actions because of this current conversation, which then prompts Kendrick to make a change and no longer take his gifts for granted or use music as a tool for manipulation in the same way Lucifer did through other musicians. He frees himself from Lucifer. Kendrick literally rewrites the devil's story,
I rewrote the devil's story just to take our power back.
creating a musical rebirth, making an art form that lives out of shared harmony rather than evil.
I found my life just to live one in harmony now.
The pride is killed in doing so, as Kendrick is willing to live amongst others rather than viewing himself as above them now that Lucifer is gone. Hence why the final word of the song is,
Carnated.
we are beginning a new musical lifetime. Remember how I said the narrative shifts at this song? The line
I found my life just to live one in harmony now.
also suggests a shift in subject matter. Rather than living separate lives plagued by evil and a lack of musical substance, a goal has been set forth for everyone to live in harmony. This communal outlook continues for the next 6 tracks, with them all being focused on the larger West Coast, TDE, and current artists in the music industry, contrasting the first half of the album that solely revolved around Kendrick and his personal life. The song also begins with the last 2 lines of Dea Barrera's opening on Whacked Out Murals, the song that established the purpose and topics spoken about for the first half of the album. But who is it talking about? We still don't know. We're gonna get there though. Its inclusion here assists in marking Reincarnated as a pivotal moment in the album. It really is the turning point for Kendrick on a personal level and a shift in subject matter. From a technical and structural standpoint, the song is also an ode to Kendrick's biggest influences, Tupac, Eminem, and DMX. The vocal inflections and cadence reflects that of the rapping style of Tupac, and the instrumental in back is also that of a Tupac song. The whole back and forth aspect and argumentative nature of the track mirrors that of Eminem's songs such as My Darling, Guilty Conscience, and Kim, as well as DMX's Damien. This allusion to all 3 artists continues Kendrick's assertion in Whacked Out Murals that he's in the company of legendary artists rather than everyone else in the industry. TV Off. After creating a new state of being for music, TV Off sees Kendrick begin to enforce this newly found environment, instructing us to turn TVs off and stop showcasing fiction, beginning this conquest in LA. Ironically, LA is synonymous with Hollywood, where film and television production is most prominent. He's beginning this mission at the heart of the problem, where most material lacking substance stems from. The song serves as an ode to his home as well, with him actually taking action on his conversation with God. Time to start living in harmony, and what better way to do that than by uplifting and shifting focus onto the city that made him and the people within it. The shift in album is apparent here, with subject shifting from Kendrick's experiences, beliefs, and perspective to tracks that highlight his friends, hometown, and hip-hop. Kendrick's determined performance and the hard-hitting Mossad production bring the flair and true essence of the West Coast, rather than the fabricated version of it depicted on TV.
It's not enough. Few solid niggas left, but it's not enough. Few bitches that are really stepped, but it's not enough.
If you're not with Kendrick's mission,
Don't you get involved.
Kendrick's final line, where he says,
Walking New Orleans with the etiquette of LA yelling.
is the same delivery as that of one of his lines on Compton,
Affected by niggas that manifested music to live it.
signifying the track as another in Kendrick's discography dedicated to his home. Dodger Blue. Dodger Blue continues this West Coast appreciation, with Kendrick reflecting on his upbringing in LA. Dodger Blue is in reference to the LA Dodgers, LA's home baseball team, who, you guessed it, have a blue color scheme. He's tired of the disrespect the city gets, and tells people,
Shut the fuck up and keep it rap.
don't disrespect the coast if you're not from there. The hustle and drive of the West Coast is also reflected in the chorus, carrying Kendrick's sentiment about the coast from TV Off into this track. The track also features several LA natives, but I'll talk about them and their purpose later. Same for every other feature on the album. Peekaboo. The ambition to rid the lack of authenticity from the industry continues in Peekaboo, with Kendrick telling us that nobody is really talking about anything real.
What they talking about? They ain't talking about nothing. What they talking about? They talking about nothing.
It's time to get rid of all that fake shit.
Hey, with all that fake shit.
There's a lack of musical substance. Kendrick is ready to have an 80-pointer game,
80 pointers like a Kobe game.
signifying that his competition have nothing lyrically in comparison to him, making it easy for Kendrick to prove his abilities in the sport of hip-hop the same way that Kobe did during his NBA career. Heart Part 6. A contrast to the fiction spoken about in Peekaboo, Kendrick reflects on his musical upbringing, telling us the real tale of how he went from hype man to CEO. It serves as an ode to TDE and the connections he formed there, with shoutouts to Dave Free, Ab-Soul, Soundwave, J-Rock, Schoolboy Q, and Top Dog, further pushing the idea and importance of having genuine connections and a genuine attitude in life. The line,
If he made it, that mean I made it.
shows how close these bonds truly are, as one person's success was not just seen as one person's, but rather everybody's. Genuine relationships were formed during their upbringing, and the song shows the importance of true connections built off love and respect rather than personal benefit. The song builds up to Kendrick's message to his listeners, reminding us not to let our goals and ambitions get in the way of relationships. If they're real connections, then they can be maintained even in times where your goals for self-improvement and achievements in life might not align with other people's thoughts and wants for you.
Don't let the socials gas you up, but let emotions be your crush. Pick up the phone and bust it up before the history is lost. Hand to hand shake is good when you have a heart to heart.
These things shouldn't get in the way of your relationships and further cement the importance of authenticity in life as well as music and hip-hop. GNX, the title track. Kendrick's mission to bring the real back continues, showcasing 3 rising artists out of LA, all of them painting vivid portrayals of life in LA. Every feature on the album has a role to play, and it's not just limited to this track. Hida J3, Roddy Ricch, Siete 7X, and Wally the Sensei, like Kendrick himself, all hail from Compton. AZ Chike from South Central, Dottie Six from Veron, and features from Lefty Gunplay, Peso, and Dara Barrera keep LA's Hispanic community represented too. Kendrick ensures that every sector of this city is highlighted throughout the album, even SZA being a Top Dog Entertainment artist herself, a label synonymous with LA and LA culture. Gloria. The album ends with an ode to hip-hop, through Kendrick's telling of his genuine love and connection for the art of lyricism and writing. By personifying his pen as a woman, the song shows how his relationship with writing has evolved and strengthened as he got older, with an allusion to writer's block being mentioned, symbolizing the 5-year hiatus. The line,
Hate it when I hit the club to get some bitches. Wrote them off, rather see me hit the church and get religious.
serves as a callback to Reincarnated. His writing would benefit from real, spiritual salvation rather than that of sin and temptation. The writer's block was only able to be overcome when Kendrick stopped living life with a lack of authenticity and love, tying back into Kendrick's goal for the album, bringing back the real. It came back when he hit the church and got religious, aka embracing the real. The song also begins with a new line from Dara Barrera, who sings the line, Seated, Anita and you. Remember one of the first lines on Whacked Out Murals?
Riding in my GNX with Anita Baker in the tank deck.
No longer in motion, riding in his car with Anita Baker playing, Kendrick is seated, marking the end of the ride and bringing this album to a close as the drive has ended. But what is the significance of Anita Baker? Why is Kendrick listening to her while we ride around with him? The song he's listening to is seemingly Sweet Love, mentioning it in Whacked Out Murals.
It's gonna be a sweet love.
This track comes off her album called Rapture. A rapture is essentially a final event, the coming of Christ cleansing earth and bringing Christians up to heaven. Sound familiar? This reference ties back to Kendrick's mission with the album, to cleanse the industry of fakeness and bring in authenticity. GNX is Kendrick's rapture of the music industry. The mission has been accomplished now the album has reached its conclusion, hence the fact that he is now seated. The album brought change to those who listened. And yeah, that is Kendrick Lamar's GNX. This is a true masterpiece from Kendrick, and obviously I wasn't going too deep into all the lyrics. I just wanted to give a general overview of the album's concept. Let me know what you guys think, and if I missed anything, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and hit notifications so you don't miss any more videos. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.